Pandemic price exploitation. How crisis fueled unfair business practices. Explore how price exploitation during the pandemic affected consumers and markets, amid rumors of government conspiracy and inflated pharmaceutical profits. How pandemic price exploitation became a business trend. Hey, have you ever stopped to think about just how wild the price changes were during the pandemic? I mean, it wasn't just about empty store shelves or frantic online shopping. Somewhere along the way, a whole mess of people started charging way more than they should have for everyday essentials. And it wasn't just a few bad apples. This phenomenon, often called pandemic price exploitation, is a strange blend of panic, opportunity, and honestly some pretty questionable ethics. When the pandemic hit, we all faced shortages for a bunch of critical items: hand sanitizer, masks, certain medications, even basic groceries. Remember that? Suddenly, items that used to cost just a couple of bucks were selling for triple or quadruple that amount. Now, some of this was due to supply and demand, which is normal economics, right? But a lot of vendors jumped the gun and started charging inflated prices without justification, hoping that fear and urgency would make people just reach for their wallets. It got so out of hand that governments had to step in with what is called price gouging laws. These are rules intended to prevent sellers from hiking prices excessively during a declared emergency. But even then, enforcement was tricky. When everything's up in the air, figuring out what's truly exploitative is not always black and white. On the consumer side, the frustration was real because it's hard to watch someone profit off others when they're scared or struggling. But here's an interesting twist. Amid all the noise, some conspiracy theories began to float around. People speculated about government conspiracy plays, suggestions that maybe organizations or even pharmaceutical companies were somehow controlling supplies or hiking prices deliberately to maximize pharmaceutical profits or just to push a specific agenda. Of course, a lot of these allegations are untrue and have been debunked repeatedly, but they do highlight how much tension and mistrust was brewing beneath the surface. In crises like this, fear can make facts harder to handle, and rumors tend to spread faster than any factual report. Another factor was the rise of third-party sellers on online marketplaces who practically exploited the chaos. These sellers sometimes took advantage of pricing algorithms that automatically changed costs based on demand, which amplified the problem. And boy, those flash sales and last-chance offers felt less like deals and more like traps. It's fascinating, and a bit disheartening, to see how crisis can turn some people into opportunists while others step up to help. The pandemic highlighted the cracks in our supply chains and pricing structures, and while some companies genuinely struggled to keep up, others clearly took advantage. But beyond just pointing fingers, I think what remains important is how we as consumers stay aware. Keeping an eye on pricing, supporting transparent businesses, and advocating for stronger laws can help curb future attempts of price exploitation. That's not to say there aren't complexities involved. Sometimes legitimate supply issues do cost more, but it should never blind us to unfair profiteering. Honestly, whether you think it was inevitable or avoidable, the pandemic price exploitation story probably isn't going away anytime soon. It's a fascinating blend of economics, ethics, and human behavior that tells us a lot about resilience and morality under pressure. By the way, while we're talking about complex plots and human nature, if you enjoy stories that keep you guessing with twists and intrigue, you should check out The Ultimate Frame by Andrew M. Semple. It's an incredible novel that weaves suspense with deep characters facing their own ethical dilemmas. Discover this thrilling novel by Andrew M. Semple today and get lost in a story that's as gripping as the real world is complicated.